being humiliated, when we felt shame, when we felt helpless, when we felt, and I give my clients this definition: if you have so many capacity, but a situation requires so much, then there's a gap.
Yeah. A different perspective with مالك فوده. اهلا بيكم في حلقه خاصه جدا 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 النهارده، لاني اخيرا هقدر اوريكم مثل الاعلى في الطب والعلاج النفسي دكتور هاجو هورست. هنتكلم النهارده انا ودكتور هاجو بالانجليزي، احنا الاثنين لغتنا اصلا الماني، بس احنا في دبي هنتكلم بالانجليزي عشان جمهور عربي، فالموضوع معقد شويه، استحملونا وسامحونا على اي اخطاء. Dr. Hajo, you are a renowned psychologist with several experience. You are an expert in psychology and psychotherapy. I am extremely grateful for having you here in this episode with me to show the people how can we talk about topics like trauma, therapy methods, and how can we enhance our mental health. Thank you for being with us.
Well, thank you for having me, and it's a great pleasure to have you in my life.
Thank you so much. Same. I can only say the same. Our topic today is trauma. You know, many people when they search online, they find trauma usually described as an emotional response to a distressing event or series of events. This can include natural disasters, accidents, and different other things like interpersonal violence and childhood abuse. What's, in your opinion, missing in this definition? What do you usually tell your clients what trauma really is?
Well, I tell them that it can happen to everyone, first of all. Everyone can be traumatized. And I think it's important to make a difference between small trauma and big trauma. So because everyone is talking of natural disasters of that kind, but the definition would be like small trauma could be any incident that remains stuck in your memory and stuck in your body and stuck in your emotions. Okay, so it could be something in your school when you were at school. It could be something that teachers said to you, or you were bullied, or anything like it. Big trauma instead is something where you were in a life-threatening situation, which is a totally difference. But both negative or stressful events leave their traces in the body, in the brain, and become a pattern. And so this is what I first explained. So because people are usually looking for these big events and say, no, nothing big happened to me.
Yeah, like rape or...
Yeah, I wasn't raped, I wasn't bullied at school, blah, blah, blah. Okay, but then let's say we come repeatedly to a situation where the grandma or granddad or whatever told the young boy, the young girl something about them. You're not good enough, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
Okay, and these scenes become forgotten, but the brain or the subconsciousness never forgets. So it's all stored in the subconsciousness.
Yeah, as a small trauma.
As a small trauma.
Yeah. Yeah.
So anything from humiliation to shame to moments of helplessness, they form a memory and they form a pattern in the brain.
Would you say that small traumas mostly forgotten by the people, or they are not described as traumas just because they are usual or common in the society, or many people just experience it?
Yes,
every day?
I think every one of us has experienced situations when we felt being humiliated, when we felt shame, when we felt helpless, when we felt, and I give my clients this definition: if you have so many capacity, but a situation requires so much, then there's a gap.
Yeah.
And this usually, in this moment where this happens, creates a neurococktail of stress and leads to this situation not to be forgotten. It leaves an imprint.
And that is in our...
it can happen
field.
every day.
Yeah, exactly. It can happen every day. And that's what's actually caused the traumatic response later.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
So then a traumatic memory will be formed consisting of an image of that event, of a feeling, of a body sensation, and most of all, a negative belief about myself. And if this situation is being repeated, then I form a belief about myself. And this is what mostly gets in the way later on during our professional life or even during our marriage or our relationship. We go back to this old belief, because here's the thing, we have to know this, that we are educated that we have to be conscious, making conscious decisions, being very conscious about things and use our willpower. But the main driver behind the scenes is our subconsciousness. And this is where all the action is going. The subconsciousness is moving the needle. So we have to be, it's wise to take a look at what is driving it.
So to be conscious about the unconscious.
Yes, that's a bit of a challenge every day, and this is where coaching and psychotherapy and consulting can help.
I think something else is missing, or not missing, maybe it's not explained enough to the people, is that witnessing a situation, not being a part of it, just witnessing it from far away, it can also be traumatic.
Very important. I'm glad that you mentioned it, because also becoming a witness of something, let's say, thinking of one client, he was witnessing his younger sister being beaten by their dad. And he couldn't, because at that age he was only, let's say, 2 years older, and he couldn't do something about it. And this created this rage, which was trapped inside of him. It also created helplessness, because he wanted, but he felt I couldn't. He wasn't up to stopping his father. And so becoming a witness of something which is unjust, unfair, a crime, whatever, shameful, creates also such a stressful memory.
Yeah, you just mentioned a very alerting word right now, and I think also we need to just explain it a bit to our viewers, which is the age of the person experiencing the trauma. For example, in the family context, a baby who's just 1 or 2 years old, who's not understanding what's happening around him completely, as we imagine, can also experience trauma from witnessing a fight from the parents.
Yes.
Get complicated all his life, and nobody understands where that come from.
Yeah.
How do you see this?
Particularly because during the first 7 years, when we grow, our brain is mostly in this theta waves state. So it doesn't have a filter. It cannot really make decisions on, hey, this is not really important, or I see things differently, or so. Everything during these first 7 years is being programmed into our brain. And there's no filter, and this is forming our reality. So we're being programmed at that age about, if we witness our parents, how relationship is working or supposed to be.
The relationship script
that pattern is
noted.
Yes, it's a script. And we have no filter against it. We have nothing to say, hey, I'm of a different opinion, they shouldn't be fighting like this. Okay, a script is being written in those years, and also about relationships with others, how we play, how we interact. Sometimes also money becomes an issue at that time. So I cannot afford it, or they hear their parents complain about not being able to afford certain things, or having lost money, So all these things during the first 7 years are very important, and they usually get embedded into the memory, and you have no idea where they come from.
Okay. But please.
And there's a third source of trauma, or and this is multi-generational, or transgenerational, as we say. This can be because we know that certain information is being passed on the next generation, and particularly if this is a very also stressful memory, like for example having lost all your home, or having lost lots of money. this experience can be, or the feeling of that experience can be bypassed onto the next generation. We have this a lot in Germany, where people have lost their homes after the war.
Yeah.
You know, they had to move and so on. So this feeling of loss, or the anxiety or the fear of losing something, even if you make millions,
yeah,
this can be really stressful for someone. And usually the people don't have any idea. I was talking to an entrepreneur lately, and he said, "Hey, I have this constant." He's making millions. I have this constant fear of losing it all.
Yeah, yeah.
This is not his experience. It is something that happened to his ancestors.
Yeah, and they just got bypassed.
Yes,
to them.
the fear is being bypassed.
Do you think it gets bypassed through communication, or is it genetically?
It is genetically. Yeah. Yeah, people can if sometimes we can do EMDR, or trauma therapy, which we're going to talk about this later. We can do a session and then find out that they are recalling moments that they couldn't have really gone through. But if they ask their parents, if they're still alive, they get confirmed that this was really as the way they felt it during our session.
Okay,
so this is
very interesting. We'll come to EMDR and we're going to talk about that. But let's dive into trauma a bit. And also, you are from Germany. I am originally from Egypt. We both lived in Germany for so many times. I came back to Cairo. You came back to Dubai. So it's we somehow we are related to this Arabic culture. And we cannot just run away from it. So I have a question. Trauma is usually framed within Western contexts. That mean they talk a lot about it. They teach it. They just present it in several contexts, or go against it, make campaigns, therapies, and everything. How do you think trauma manifests or find its way in the Arabic cultures?
Well, I think let's look at trauma in three stages. The first stage is when does it occur? So I think this is universal. Like in everywhere around the world, you can be in a situation where you have so much capacity or power, but the situation would require so much more. Like you could be overwhelmed anywhere, and I think the way our brain is wired is the same. For it to happen and to leave this traumatic imprint in our limbic system, which is the emotional system. I think this is pretty much the same everywhere. Second stage is, how does your environment react to it?
Environment, the environment.
Yes, the environment. How do the people around you react after such a traumatic event? And I think he might be the first moment where culture comes into play.
Image,
Like, can you talk about it? Can you talk about your emotions?
Or can other talk about themselves?
Yes.
Or their responses?
Do you hear others talk about, or is this hidden behind a curtain of shame, or behind a curtain of do's and don'ts? You know, because there's a study saying that there is usually people respond to a traumatic or stressful situation in three ways. First, they are the ones that are pretty much resilient. Okay, it takes a lot for them to get highly impressed by something. Then there's the one who will develop a traumatic stress disorder immediately. And the group in the middle is the one that really is dependent on with how much support their environment reacts.
Okay.
So I think here comes culture into play. Are there resources for them? Are there groups? Is there psychotherapy available for them immediately after such an event, for example? So this would be the second stage.
So you would say that the culture differences rely on the reaction and the traumatic reaction.
Yes.
How can we deal with it? are we allowed to express ourselves, our emotions
Yes.
into
Yes.
public or with
Yes.
friends or families or not?
Soon after the
Yeah.
event.
And how the society treats
Yeah.
these people also.
Yeah.
Does they
Yeah.
does the society acknowledge their own feelings and
Yes.
acknowledge the danger that they could have experienced from this causes? Yeah.
Yeah, and the third stage is completely, I think, culturally centered or culturally dependent. This is what happens after this, like what are the rules about talking about feelings, expressing them, how about, are there differences for men and for women, and so on.
Yeah.
This is what are they allowed to do, what are they not allowed to do. Yeah.
You just said being resilient, it also helps you managing trauma differently. Okay, but being resilient, it demands also a specific kind of emotional regulation and mental strength and other psychological factors. So a culture that doesn't support talking about emotions and stability and mental health, how can their people be resilient?
That's a good question. Well, I mean, it is important to, for example, focus on the things that I can control. Many people in these days are overwhelmed by all the social media input, so they get too much information. I think step number one is to learn how to focus on yourself again. Second step would be to focus on the things that I can control and really get a difference of what can I control and what do I not have any control over. This is so important because it helps you immediately to regulate your stress level.
Okay.
Once you're clear about this.
Yeah. Since you're in Dubai now for many years, how do you see that? Now let's talk about women and men as two different genders. How did you meet Arabic masculine clients who could talk about their traumas openly, or was there difficulties understanding them or getting the information out of them?
I think first of all it was a bit difficult for them, not for me, because I'm used to this. You know, I've been doing this for over 30 years. People would come to me and they open up immediately. But I saw some hesitance in it, like, okay, can I really trust? No. Can I really trust this guy is one thing. Can I allow myself to speak openly? That's the first thing.
And how much am I allowed to speak?
Yeah.
Can I talk about my mom like this, or can I talk about my wife like that? Yeah,
that's exactly.
I think we both have this conflict with most of our clients now. Seeing the clients fighting with themselves about how much information can I give.
Yes.
So we have more load to pick the information out.
Yes, yes. It's so much about loyalty, because I think this is one of the deeply rooted programs. We want to be loyal to our parents, and so this
again
is
the programming,
program.
the programming and noting the relationship script, as you said. Maybe we can talk about that later a bit. So we talked about what trauma is and how many aspects does it have and how it manifests and how the trauma reactions can differ from a culture to the other, of the gender also, the social status. All these things can affect how trauma finds its way or shows itself into your life. I will not miss the chance to talk with you about EMDR, because you are a passionate advocate of the use of EMDR since forever. And can you please help me explain to my viewers what is EMDR and why it is the tool to face trauma?
Yes, that's a big one.
Now the stage is yours completely again.
EMDR is an acronym, which means it is for eye movement desensitization error processing. So it already gives you an idea what it's all about. It's about fast eye movements, and you do a little desensitization, so which means you increasing the stress, the hyperarousal of a traumatic event, and then you do the reprocessing, like you reassess the information and you get out of the trauma. So this is what EMDR stands for.
Purely neurological.
It is, yes. And what I like about it, and this is why I did some own scientific research about it, is because I've been doing this since 1999, and I was one of the first people in Germany to learn about this. And I learned it from the founder. The method is, I think, over 35 years old on the market. So we're using fast bilateral eye movements, okay, to downregulate the nervous system, to take away the emotional load of a picture of that incident. Yeah. And then we help the brain to reassess it, to reorganize it, to process it.
Yeah. Yeah. First we have to call this image, a specific image with in a safe environment or some. How do you do that? I know how you do it, but I mean for our people, they need to do it. Need to know it. Yeah. How do you get the person into summoning the image that we need to treat? Yeah.
Well, first of all, we do a preparational phase. And it would really be a mistake to really dive directly into a traumatic event and trying to reprocess it. First, what we do during this preparational phase is we also work with eye movements. This time we use slow eye movements. And it is not to be confused with hypnosis. It is slow eye movements. And then we are anchoring positive states, positive memories, helpful people or persons to help us go through this process. Yeah. And so only once we have finished this preparational phase, only then do we dive into the traumatic or into the first memory.
I think in this position we have to explain also what's the difference between the slow eye movement and the rapid eye movement.
This is part of my own research that I did, and I could show that while doing fast eye movements, you have more interaction between the two hemispheres. You know, our brain is like, it has two hemispheres. Yeah. And so doing fast eye movements, the connection seems to grow. There seems to be more connection between the two hemispheres, leading us to a better processing of the situation. Okay. Whereas and also leading us to new aspects of that traumatic event or other moments in our life which we want to process. Yeah. Okay? So it is highly creative and more, it's connected more. Whereas slow eye movements, they are better at anchoring a positive state, a feeling, an image, a belief about myself.
By establishing a new memory, or by stabilizing an already existing memory?
By creating, when we go into, for example, we can easily, using slow eye movements, we can easily create a picture of a safe place or a helpful person. And once we use, and we're not doing this only talking, but we would, because if we use slow eye movements, it helps the body, it helps the brain to go deeper into this image than any other pure talking session could do.
Yeah, okay. So we establish first, in the preparation phase, we establish positive traits or positive tools that can help us face the rapid eye movement phase. This is what's the second phase, where we can treat the traumatic response. Yeah. In this phase, we face actually a specific image that pictures the traumatic response or the traumatic situation, and then through the eye movement, I'm just summarizing, and then through the eye movement, we help the two hemispheres connect to each other to have a bigger connection, and through that we can reprocess the situation better.
Yeah.
Okay.
It is, EMDR is the only tool with a proven neurobiological mechanism of work.
Yeah.
So, and what we can see in a traumatized person is that their right hemisphere, in that limbic system where all the informations are processed and stored, when thinking about a stressful memory, traumatic memory, they have high arousal. They have too much arousal.
Yeah.
Like this is the brain's going down. Okay, and whereas in their prefrontal left cortex, there is too little activity. This would be usually the place which helps us to
executive function.
And also this holds the memory of the world and how things are. This holds some rational knowledge about the world. Yeah. So this is understimulated, this is overstimulated. So this is, and brain scans helped us to see this before we did EMDR. And after such a session, if you measure this again, you can show that the hyperarousal in the right hemisphere has gone. And there's more activity in the left prefrontal cortex. So this is why I say it's the only method with a proven neurobiological mechanism.
Okay. Yeah. I'm fascinating. You know, I love this method, and it's actually my method of therapy, and I would always use it again and again and again. And we also know, both of us, that it can be used in completely different fields, not only trauma, but also depression. And there are so many studies now about that, and anxiety, and even panic attacks and stuff. No, not panic attacks, sorry. It's not panic attacks.
Panic attacks, yeah.
Can it
Sure. I mean, panic attack is when you were in a situation where you had anxiety, and having anxiety, again, is a normal thing.
Yeah.
We cannot live without anxiety. But here's the point. Having anxiety without the idea of any support, this turns anxiety into panic. That's the difference between anxiety and panic.
Okay.
So anxiety is a pretty normal thing, but if our brain tells us, I have no support. I'm alone here.
Yeah.
No one can help me. Then it switches and it gets into a state which is never helpful.
Okay. I think one day we'll talk about anxiety. You know, it's a very important topic actually to talk about. Okay. Yeah. It's since you have been using EMDR so long in Germany and now in Dubai for a long time, you have. I know that you have a huge amount of various clients group from everywhere in the world. What's the most interesting experience did you have with using EMDR as a therapy method in the clinical way now?
Oh, there were so many moments when I thought, oh, this is really like a wonder. It works magic.
A black magic. You remember our first conversation?
Yeah.
I told you, I think it's important to say this also. It was one of my first words to you. Yeah. Only black magic can do this.
Yeah.
So please.
Let's talk about someone who came to me. He was an entrepreneur, or he's an entrepreneur still. He was like, let's say, a tall, very handsome, athletic man, an entrepreneur. He started with a good business idea. He was married, 2 children, everything looked very good from the outside, okay? When he came to me, he reported stomach pain, he reported a bad health, he reported that he was driven and that he was totally under stress, and that he would always start things but never finish them, that he had no idea about his numbers in his business, and that he wasn't really leading his 2 employees. And so, and this was when we started a year-long program. And we started by assessing, okay, what were the situations that caused his brain to have this chronic stress? And we found out it was moments of being bullied at school, being unable to help his younger sister with the conflict with his father. Also because he had trouble in reading and writing. He did believe this concept about himself: I'm not good enough, I cannot make it, because I will never be able to study, and only the people who have studied and finished university will make it in life. This is part of the programming which they tell us.
Yeah, the biggest bullshit.
And so he had to quit school, and then so these were the memories, or that was the foundation of his low self-esteem, and and he was very bad in his marriage. He would, because of his low. Oh, and there was some humiliation during his military service, and then there was over-sexualization of things, and so we went through all these episodes, and we used EMDR in reprocessing it.
Yeah.
And at the time when he started, and when we started to work, he would cheat on his wife. Okay, he would do things that were not okay, and then after some month, he showed up. He was more self-assured. He had the confidence. He had control. He took back control over the numbers in his company. He developed a calmer state of mind, which is so important if you run a business. You want to have control over your numbers, control of the processes in your business. So changing his brain had a huge effect, and he could see his wife, because she was a beautiful wife. He could see her as a wonderful partner, and he deliberately chose not to cheat on her because she was his choice. You know.
Yeah. And this is for you the most interesting experience, because you thought it would be hard to treat such a personality.
Yeah. You know, usually in the old concepts of psychotherapy, this would have been seen or viewed as a personality disorder, something that you need years of psychoanalysis for.
A few years.
No.
And this is again the question relating this to trauma. Would you say that several traumas in several phases of life complicates the therapy process?
If you go with this concept of trauma, you can easily identify situations, big trauma or small, which left their traces, which form beliefs about the person, and which makes them see the world in a, let's say, difficult way.
Okay.
Because and then this person will repeat the process.
Yeah, and this is actually what we call for. So if you cannot change what in front of you, so choose your battle. You know, choose your battle. Yeah, exactly. Keep at least a mindful, stable state of mind. Yeah. All of this was much more than I wanted to show my viewers today, and I'm super happy that you are the person who did this, because you are my idol in the field, and my mentor and my friend and everything. Thank you so much, Dr. Hajo, for being here, and I really hope that the people today learned something from us. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. Let's cancel this.